Welcome to Blender Age Builders, Part 2. Introduction to Blender. Excuse me, I moved the microphone briefly. Okay, so I need to open up my little folder. We're going to build this. My sketching skills are not perfect, but this is a 3D representation. The player character will be about the size of the mouse cursor, or a couple of mouse cursors stacked on top of each other. These are stairs going down to a central area. This is an obelisk. These are walls. This is a walkway going around. These are supposed to be higher parts, but I didn't know how to draw that. This is a top-down view showing the walkway space, the stairs, the obelisk, and the wall on the outside. These square areas here would be a place where we could place giant planters or trees or plants or something at a later date. I'm going to move the microphone one more time. I just want it centered right about in the middle. There we go. Okay. So that's what we're going to build. First things first, we need to start getting our age roughed out. So, need to open up Blender. And we need to get our layout taken care of. Your layout will not look like this. Your layout will look probably, let's see, join area, like this. So to have what I just had, go up here somewhere where you see a double-headed arrow, can't talk, right click and you can go to split area. And then these give you the kind of menu that you will have. Your user preferences menu is hidden up here. You got to pull this down. We want this to be the outliner, which is right here. And that allows us to see all the objects in our scene and select them. Plus, as a bonus, this is closer to what you will see if you are running a later version of Blender. So you'll be ready to jump right into the new version of Blender. So we want this. Now you might find that your fonts are a little bit small. If you're on a 720p or 1080p thing like I am, the only thing that you can do to really help is go to Language and Fonts, click on International Fonts, select a font, and I have selected Verdania, and you can set the size right here. I've also clicked on Use Textured Fonts. There's nothing else that can be done. We can also increase the vertex size by going to Themes. We add a new theme. We make sure this is in 3D view. It usually is by default. Click here and you can go to vertex size somewhere in this menu, and you can adjust the vertex size, because normally the vertex size is somewhere around here. So I'm on a 1080p screen, so if I press tab, that's kind of hard to see. I don't know about you, but that's pretty hard to see. So if I increase this to a 6, now I can see what I'm doing. And that is the only way that I know to adjust your vertices. There's no 1080p theme that I'm aware of. Pressing tab again. Tab will cycle you between edit and object mode. There'll be more on that later. Under view and controls, I have left mouse click selected. I'm a Windows user. If you're going to stick with the right mouse clicking, then you will need to adapt my instructions that I give you to that, because I'm going to be assuming left mouse usage, because that's what I use and probably half the rest of the planet. So for the other things here, we want to have the view name, otherwise we don't know what view we're in. That's what this is here. And I have rotate set to turntable. You can have a turntable or a trackball. Trackball, which is the default, is as if you have your hand on a trackball and you're moving the scene around that way. And I found it very hard to navigate, so I selected turntable. Play around with that, see what you like. I increased some sizes here, put this at 16, and try to make things a little more visible. That should get you a setup that's similar to the one that I have. I don't think I've messed with much else here. Yeah, I think that's everything we want to cover. So pull this back up. To switch between views, you can press numpad 3. Excuse me, make sure your numlock key is on. Numpad 3 for your right orthographic view. This is orthographic, and if I press numpad 5, now we're in perspective. Now perspective view means that if I do this, yeah, you can see that things kind of recede into the distance and has a kind of a 3D appearance. If we do numpad 5 and we have orthographic view, you'll see that everything is trying to be the exact same length and width, and there's a little bit of an optical illusion going on there, but it's all trying to be the same length and width. It's like medieval 3D kind of stuff going on. You'll want to have the orthographic view in your top, side, and front views. So pressing numpad 3, and that puts me into right ortho. Numpad 1 will put me into front ortho. Numpad 7 is top ortho. Pressing control numpad 7 is bottom ortho. Pressing control numpad 1 is back ortho, and pressing control numpad 3 is left ortho. Those are pressing and holding control, then pressing and releasing the numpad buttons in this case. To toggle just the normal views, just press and release the numpad 7, 1, and 3 buttons. I'll try to be more descriptive about press and release, press and hold, because that's kind of important. If you press the numpad arrow up or down, you can rotate around. And if you do to the left and right, you can rotate to the sides. If you press subtract, you will zoom out, plus you will zoom in. And if you press numpad 0, you will get a camera view. There's an object called the camera, and you're seeing it now. This is what you are. And when you render, pressing F12, that's what you see, because you're getting the render from the camera view. You can just pull that over and X out of there, pressing numpad 7 and releasing it. Okay, to move with the mouse, press and hold the middle mouse button. I will assume you have a 3-button mouse. There are options up here for emulating, and I don't know what they all are and where they all are, but there should be options somewhere around here for emulating 3-button mouse, and there should be one for emulating numpad and using the number keys on the top of your keyboard, but don't quote me on that. But I'm assuming you have a 3-button mouse and you have like a middle button that's a mouse wheel. So pressing and holding that middle button and dragging around will give you a rotate option, and that's how you can experiment with the different rotate modes to see what you like. Scrolling up and down will zoom. As you scroll back, you'll zoom out. As you scroll down, you'll zoom in. Oh, that was interesting. I'll have to see what that did. Anyway, pressing and holding Shift and then pressing and holding the middle mouse button will allow you to pan the view. And also, I think you can do something pressing and holding Shift or Control. Yes, pressing and holding Control and the numpad buttons, the arrows, will give you also a pan of the view. In the emulate 3-button mouse, you'll be using the Alt button instead of these other kind of clicks. Pressing numpad at 7 and releasing it. So that is your basic navigation kind of controls. The different things you can do with your object and different stuff in your scene is down here. We have these buttons here to switch between these different things. These are also correlated to your F keys, F4 through something, F10 it looks like. And then you also have options here, here, and here. We won't be going over all of that now. We'll be learning that as we go along. This is your layers. This is where you can change your pivot point. This is where you can turn on this little finger pointing thing, your 3D, not your 3D cursor, but your 3D transform manipulator. These are your different modes: rotate, scale, and others. Let's see, what is that? Rotate and scale, and then translate. Okay, yeah. And these are your different axes here. And this will show you object, and if you press tab, you'll see edit. And you can select different modes here. Pressing control and up arrow or down arrow will give you a full screen. And just press up arrow or down arrow again to go back. And doing the side arrows will go between different views that you also have up here, different desktops. You click this double-headed thing, no, not this one over here. And you can pick the different type of environment views that you have. You can also, if you want to try and do a quad type view, you can right click here and split the area, and you can configure this however you like. I'll be assuming this layout, this is what we'll be using. Once you have your settings all ready to go, press Ctrl U and then save user defaults. Now we need to find out if we're ready to go with making an age. So we notice that this has a purple kind of line around it. That means it's selected. If I press A, it goes away because A is deselect all or select all. So if I press A again, now I've selected the camera and the light and the cube. I can also, if I have 3 objects spaced apart like this, just simply left click on the object I want to select, and now it'll select that object. So I'm left clicking on the cube because that's all I want to select. I can also press A to unselect everything, click over here and select it. Okay? Pressing X for delete, and it'll say erase selected objects. Notice that it comes where my cursor was last. There are 2 things you need to understand about Blender. The first thing is almost every action will have to be confirmed by either some kind of a left click or pressing enter. You can cancel actions pressing escape or right click. Most actions, not all of them. And you have this 3D cursor thing here, and this is where stuff is added. So anytime you want to add something, it goes wherever this is, and this is moved around by pressing right click on your mouse. And just press and release. And if you want to put it back to the center, press Shift C, and that puts it right back at the center. You can also manually decide where it's going to go by going to View and View Properties, and it's right here, 3D cursor, and here's its X, Y, and Z location. Pressing C will center on the 3D cursor. So if I was to right click over here and put it and press C, now I'm over here. Pressing Shift C puts us back. Pressing C centers us on the 3D cursor. And that's press and hold Shift, press and release C, and then release Shift. And then for the other one, it's just press and release C. Alright, we want to have some sunlight. We notice that our default lamp here says spot. If we click on that, we get these different options. We can pick sun. And we can go over here and decide how powerful our sun is, and I'm going to type in 2.5, enter. And then I'm going to position our sun. So I'm going to scroll back on the mouse wheel because I want to position a little outside. I'm going to use 4 of these larger units. So I'm going to put it out here. I'm going to press Shift S, and I'm going to go Selection to Grid. And now I'm going to press and release R, which is our rotate mode. Press and hold Control, and that'll allow you to rotate on the grid. This line is the direction the light will cast. Pressing numpad 1, and now I would like to control the height of my sun. The sun, though, will work like an infinite, like a sun. It will work like infinite light going everywhere, so that's what we want. I'm going to go up here and press Shift S. That's press and hold Shift, press and release S, and then release Shift. I'm going to do Selection to Grid, press and release R, press and hold Control. For a more minor kind of rotate, the option you have is press and hold Control, press and hold Shift. No, excuse me. Shift and first you got to press your thing you're going to do. So R, press and hold Control, press and hold Shift, and now you can rotate really finely on the grid. Otherwise, you will not be on the grid. You can just press and release R, and now you're not rotating on any sort of a grid constraint. So to snap on the grid, press and hold Control. To finally snap, press and hold Control plus Shift. And you can do that when you press grab, press and release G, you are immediately in grab mode. You can see that it's highlighted. If you move your mouse cursor, it's going to move. So to make sure that you move it on the grid, you press and hold Control, or if you want to move it finally, press and hold Control plus Shift. Move it around. Then, to confirm where you're placing it, say I want it there, I can press Enter, or I can left click, and that'll confirm it. And that's one example of what I was telling you about that you need to confirm. Shift S is your snaps menu, and once again, I'm going to go to the grid. Spacebar is your add menu, but we won't be using that yet. Okay. Pressing and releasing R, pressing and holding Control, rotating hopefully one last time. I want it kind of facing towards the center from one corner or the other. So I'm thinking that's what I want right there. Okay, the next thing we need, pressing and holding Shift, pressing and holding middle mouse button, and panning. And I'm having some kind of grind going on, I don't know why. Or I can just press C, and now I'm centered on the 3D cursor. That's press and release. The next thing we need to do is get this set up to be an age for us. Now to find out what our sunlight strength is, we can if we want to. Press and release, spacebar, go to add mesh, and say a plane or something. It wouldn't really matter. And then press F12, and you can see what kind of brightness level that we have on the plane. Control, I think it's Shift Control Z to redo, and Control Z to undo. Shift Control Z to redo, Control Z to undo. That's press and hold Control, press and release Z, and then release Control. That's your undo. Press and hold Control, press and hold Shift, press and release Z to redo, and then you got to release Shift and Control after that. I won't go into that fine a detail in later videos, but I just want to get you used to the controls, how they work. I'm going to kind of take you step by step through our initial explorations here, so that you have no awkwardness or issues navigating around Blender. I've done my job if you have absolutely no questions on how to use the program. So, we need to create an age. We go to Add, we can go to PyPRP. I don't know if you can hear that alarm. I apologize, that's my rice, it's now cooked. And notice that the cursor, right where the cursor was, I get a menu and it says Create New Book. Now, if you did not install the versions that I told you in the previous video of the different programs that you need, you wouldn't have seen the PyPRP menu if you didn't have PyPRP on there, and you would get an error if you click on that if you didn't have the right versions. We don't see an error. If we go here to the console, however, we can see that there are some things that are giving us warnings here, but they're not relevant to our creating an age, and I've tested this. I've made an age and it still works, everything works, so as far as I'm concerned, we're safe. But that's where you find information on any errors or anything that's going on. Blender will talk to you about it right here in the console window. Oh, and if you want to copy an error so you can share it somewhere to forums and tell people about it, click on this Blender symbol, go to Edit, go to Mark, and just start dragging wherever it is that you want to copy, and then go to here and go to Edit, and then go to Copy. And once it's copied, you can now paste it anywhere you'd like. Okay? So our age has added, but we need to add a book to it. Now, when we do our book, we're going to be adding a sequence prefix. It's probably not as important for You Complete Chronicles, but it will be important if you have any Mist Online You Live levels that you're going to make, or if you try and share your You Complete Chronicles level somewhere, you will need that information. So, I'm going to show you some links here. So we'll show you what this means in a minute, but this is where the URCC sequence prefixes are located. Anything that's reserved here, do not use it if you're sharing your thing online or at some server or shard somewhere. Make sure you have a unique sequence prefix. That's here at guildofwriters.org/wiki/URCC_sequence prefixes. And this is your PyPRP getting started page. Be sure to read that. That's under wiki/PyPRP : getting started. And your first stage is under wiki/PyPRP : first stage. These are all things that you should read. So, we need to change this view here to our text editor. And then we need to select from this double-headed arrow thing here a book. This is our cursor. This is our scroll bar. Scroll up. And we can see that our stuff here, sequence prefix, is right here. I've just typed in a number. You don't need to enter or confirm. Click on this and go back to your buttons window. And now you are all ready to go. We will begin building in the next video, and I will see you then. First though, before we leave, Control S, that's press and hold Control, press and release S, release Control, and now you can title your level whatever you'd like, and make sure it ends in the .blend and save that. Okay? I will see you in the next video.